morning and welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. This morning, happily, we have a great personality with a perspective or two. But before we start, Mrs. Busby,
yes,
I'd like to give a shout out to Brad Nichols. He's somewhere between here and Petersburg, or by now maybe he's on his way to work or at work. He usually checks in on us as on Wednesdays, checks on you and see if you're okay. And he can tell right away, he told me. And Judith K., I think you and I would give a collective shout out to our roving reporter, Lois Harvey, up in across Wisconsin.
Yes.
She watches us faithfully and critiques us. And I can tell you that you passed last week, but not
just barely, I'm sure.
Just barely. But she had nice things to say about our guests and how knowledgeable they were, and so we appreciate that.
You want to believe it.
Kudos. Your daughter, who is our guest this morning, will recall that we always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two, and mine is very simple. Last Sunday, I had a bunch of Clint Eastwoods call on me. They all made my day. A group with representing United Riders Motorcycle Club in conjunction with the IGA and Oasis Senior Citizen Center. They appeared at Veterans Doorways last Sunday with a nice basket of fruit. Had a very nice basket, too, the container. Much appreciated.
Well, how nice that is.
They sure made my day.
Well, bless their hearts.
Yeah, it was a neat thing. So kudos to
nice.
number one, the IGA, for cooperating with them and providing some goodies, lots of goodies. The Oasis Senior Citizen Center, and all the folks who jump on those hogs or whatever they ride out there. United Motorcycle Club of Riders here in Lincoln, Golden County. Thank you, folks, very, very much. That was much appreciated. Now, I think you said you had a kudo that you wanted to mention. I have to get into it once in a while. When we come up here, we have to discuss these kudos. And once in a while, she comes up with an idea or two.
Not often, since
doesn't surprise me.
Well, I would like to say thank you and bless your heart to Annie Hieronymus. She grew up in the big city of Atlanta here, and she and I go to the same church. And Annie's been working very hard, and this is just, today seems to be all about Christmas. You talk about the lovely fruit basket you got. The Cince is going to talk about those sorts of things. And Annie has all these tables at the church with things on them that the little kids from Christian daycare and so forth come on the school bus, and they pick out for everybody in their family, for their mom, their dad, their brother, their sister. One even had a grandma on her list.
Oh, God.
See? Wonders never cease. And the kids were so excited, and it was such a nice thing. And God bless Annie Hieronymus. She's a good soul, let me tell you.
Doing nice things for people. You know, that's what makes things work. Well, go right ahead.
No,
I don't want to cut you down. You own 50% of this
thing.
know,
sometimes you get to thinking there's all these wars and rumors of war and everything. People hate people and people are mad at people. And you get to thinking, Holy Friday, why can't we really try, each one of us, to have peace on earth?
Well, these nice people belie what our friend, my dear friend, Judge Harold F. Trapp said years ago. Hardy and I were next door neighbors on Grand Avenue there, and once in a while we'd sit in the backyard and nip a little iced tea together and smoke Danish cigarillos. And Harold was he's all gone. That whole family's gone now, so it's okay. Harold was a brilliant man, just a real brilliant, and he had quite a career in the FBI. In the days when the FBI was totally honest. And but I don't know the subject matter, but his long remembered quote was, and this is verbatim, folks. He says, long ago, I came to the lamentable conclusion that by and large people are just no good.
That is right. And you know,
so that'd be wise. All the subject matter this morning belies what Hardy said.
Yes, it does. But Mr. Gossett and I regularly, since you may have noticed, quote Judge Trapp.
I have heard that quote many
Yes.
times.
And you know, it's true. You kind of get down in the mouth about it. But look, there's Annie Hieronymus. And look, there are the motorcycle people that brought you people that
Cince Busby Bowns, whom we're about to talk to.
And Cince Busby Bowns.
She falls under that mantle.
You know, in connection with your, I don't know, she's done something bad. That cat needs discipline.
Well, let's get down to business. We got a girl that we want to talk with this morning.
Well, yeah.
She gave us time.
And Cince is going to tell us about the good kinds of things that people do for the children that Cince associates with.
Let's start with her title to start with.
She's not a superintendent, a supervisor.
Something.
For the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services.
A job which I could not begin to have.
No,
even if I were qualified. My disposition, my heart's on my sleeve with kids.
Yeah.
And so people who work with children in that capacity, to me, are very, very special. Of course, your daughter's always been special with us anyway, but that's neither here nor there. Cince, your mother's so proud of you, and rightfully so. How long have you been with the Department of Children and Family Services?
29 years.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Long time.
It doesn't seem
There'll
like
be some
that.
dead air time while I just kind of digest that a little bit. That's really very difficult for me to believe.
Well, and how the invite came for me to be here is I'd gone over to Mom's for coffee, and I was telling her all the amazing things. I supervise in Springfield and in Lincoln, and there's amazing things happening that churches and organizations are embracing us and assisting us with our kids. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we all talk about it in December. You know, people are willing to put their money into the kettle.
Yep.
We talk about the fruit baskets. We talk about the Head Start and Christian Child Care shopping. So these little ones. In the two offices I have 6 workers who carry cases, and I have 120 children who are in foster care, residential care. And we don't get money to go buy them gifts. Oftentimes they're very estranged from their family. You don't even get
money for traveling, for God's sakes. How far behind are you on your job?
Well, I don't even keep track anymore. It's just a surprise when it shows up.
Illinois employee. Yeah.
Yeah, if you watch the news, we're in bad straits. But for years, Springfield put on its own Christmas party for its foster children and foster parents. And it included Logan, Mason, Menard, Christian, and Sangamon counties. And very labor intensive. There's no money available other than what staff donate. Of their time, of their talents, of their financial resources, and plus talking to businesses who are willing to donate. And this year, both in Springfield and in Lincoln, we had Christmas parties put on for our foster parents and kids by other entities, and we got to go and relax and enjoy and visit and just watch with amazement these kids who are anywhere from birth to 18 years old enjoying games and sweet treats and a visit from Santa. And it was fun to relax and enjoy it. In Springfield, we had the James Project, which is very helpful throughout the year.
And what is the James Project, Cynthia?
They're an organization. They have foster homes. They help us get beds, they help us to get clothes, they help us to get hygiene items, because so often when we take a child into protective custody, removing them from their parents, they come with what they have on. And so it'd be nice
Leave
to
it
have
at
a
3 in the
toothbrush, deodorant, and a change of clothes.
Yeah, and there's no. I'm trying to come up with the right word. No selection as far as hours are concerned when you get called
No.
to take care of it. Could be 2 in the morning.
We're in business 24/7, 365. But the James Project in Cherry Hill Church in Springfield had a huge Christmas party at Cherry Hill Church. It included 430 participants, foster parents and children, and 250 volunteers.
My word.
And it was amazing. And that was 2 Saturdays ago. And this past Saturday, we had a Christmas party here. It was put on by Fostering Grace and Crossway Church. I don't have any stats because it's been less than a week. It was at the Y Gym, and from 4 to 5 it was just for our foster parents and children. And it was amazing. It was amazing. I met Pastor Nick from Crossway Church, and we also have Jenna Gill, who is from Fostering Grace. Fostering Grace has been wonderful for Lincoln. They have a huge Facebook page, and we call Jenna and tell her what we need, and she puts it on Facebook. We just had a young lady move into her own apartment. And for those of you who have children who have moved out, they move into an apartment and you're digging through the basement for the old dishes and silverware and whatnot. And again, so often there's not biological family involved, so we become the family. And Fostering Grace, we have dresser and daybed and all kinds of kitchen stuff and lamps, and what else do you need? We'll call her at the spur of the moment that we need these clothing items or these hygiene items, and we get them. And what's nice about Fostering Grace is it's not a November, December thing. It is a 12 month. She and her group of people have put together backpacks, and in each backpack are clothes that are washed and ironed and folded and personal hygiene items, and depending on the age, it could be color books, it could be a small, and on every bag there's a tag that will say boys 6 or girls 16. And so when we take custody, we can go in one of our little back room where we store all these and grab a backpack for whatever we need. And as they run low, she brings in more.
You see, we go about our daily lives, each and every one of us, with a head in the clouds or head involved in our own little sphere of activities or our own little sphere of worries and so forth. And we tend to shut out, not by design, just the way things are, these things that are on the periphery that we have no knowledge of at all. And you're on the firing line every day.
Well,
and it's not just an 8-hour day.
It is. I think my phone was ringing at 10 o'clock last night. I get off at 5, theoretically.
Theoretically,
but
yeah.
we took a child, an older teen, into care very recently, and she came with nothing. And we called Fostering Grace, who put it on their Facebook page. And I received an email, and it's touching what people can do. Fostering Grace put a post. I'm going to read an email that I got. Fostering Grace put a post on Facebook today regarding a request for donations for a teen girl who just came into care. They posted a wish list and asked the community for help in meeting this need. The post states to message them for drop-off, or they can drop it off at the Lincoln DCFS office. And one of the staff at the office, I just answered the doorbell and found a very nice man and his wife who saw the post and brought a box and gift bag full of items for the teen. I just wanted everyone to know in case someone comes in with donations.
There you are, grassroots level.
This kid will have a Christmas. Again, you know, we work 24 hours a day, every day of the year, and there's a lot of times we end up taking kids on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. You place them in a foster home, and they hadn't planned on that.
Right.
And so trying to gather things together. We put a lot of our kids on angel trees. Today at the Lincoln office, we will be wrapping gifts for our kids in care so they have a Christmas.
Well, we're talking about all this, charity and so forth, and charitable activities, because it's the Christmas season, ho, ho, ho. But the real life situation is that yours is not a seasonable need or worry.
Well,
it's 52 weeks out of the year.
I think people kind of get lost in their own little world.
Sure.
We get a monthly little newsletter from our church and the food pantry, and these were October statistics. The food pantry here in Lincoln served 1,510 individuals in October.
Wow.
That's 1 month.
That's 1 month. That included 563 children, and it was 443 households. There's a need. And one of the things that our church does, and a lot of people don't know this, if you're on SNAP, which is what food stamps is, that buys you food. That doesn't buy you laundry soap, toothpaste, pine
household
saw,
needs.
toilet paper. It buys you food. And so our church has every month, you know, this month is dish soap, and
Yes.
next month is Band-Aids and Kleenex, and the following month shampoo. Things that you can't buy with your food stamps, but you need.
That's right. Try and get along without laundry soap.
Yeah.
It'd be tough, man.
You know, in the same vein, somewhat analogous, we have Cindy Ossiker and Margaret Williams doing a Moms Who Care thing in the school system, and I just wanted to give that a shout out because these two young ladies, retired teachers, they didn't leave their kids.
That's right.
They may have left the schoolroom and the rigors of everyday teaching, but they remembered their children that they'd had down through the years and those that are to come. And so they're out there doing this Moms Who Care thing. So God love them, and we're going to get them up here and talk about that too again. But since 648-5510, our guest this morning is Cynthia Lynn Bowns, Cynthia Busby Bowns, Cynthia Lynn to me, or just Cince, or hey you. She has a job that not everybody is qualified for. We may be qualified in one sense of the word, but when it comes down to the human part of it, it's a tough job. You might have some questions or some comments for us. 648-5510. How many children do you have under your jurisdiction, Cince?
I believe 120, which are placed throughout the state of Illinois, not just in the 4 counties that I supervise. We go up to Lake Villa, which is just on the Wisconsin border.
Because of child being placed up there?
Yes.
Now, how is that done? Through a court system?
Well, we go to court and get guardianship of children, and depending upon their need, whether they need foster care. The kids that we travel for are residential children who need a higher level of care. And that's where we end up putting on our miles.
For which you have been paid in several months. Could we call the state treasurer and get her on her? No, he on. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, we'll get you the money one way or the other, kid. You have a staff of how many?
I have six staff who carry cases. I have 1 staff on maternity leave and 1 brand new staff in training.
Training requires you just can't come out of a college class, academia, and say I'm qualified, because that takes it takes a little time on hands thing.
Well, and the thing is, 29 years on the job, and I'm still learning new stuff every day. Things change. There's new policies and procedures. There's new ways of doing things, and the kids have changed.
And you're 29 years older, and I bet your thinking has changed since you graduated.
It has changed greatly. It was actually interesting. I was in court in Menard County yesterday and met a young lady who works for a private agency in Springfield. She was also at court. And I said, well, how long have you been on the job? 18 months. And I had a heart-to-heart with her about self-care, because the things that we see and have to deal with can be very wearing. And the department's good about talking about self-care, but not really explaining what that is and what it looks like, because it's so different for every person. But basically, so you don't burn out in the job is what it's for. What are your outlets?
We're going to get burnt out here if we don't if we don't recognize our sponsors are going to torch us. So go right ahead. We have changes and procedures here too, Cince. Go right ahead, Jim. And we're right back live here in the studio here at WLCN. Obviously, the program is Viewpoint. Each Wednesday morning, 8:15 to 9. And our guest this morning is kind of special, certainly special to Judith Kay, really special to Jean Gossett and myself, our former neighbor who pushed it away, Cynthia Lynn Bowns.
I feel like an abandoned child, Bill, since you left me.
And Cynthia Lynn has had a long-time relationship with our studio manager here, Mr. Rash. They want to know, she said, for a lifetime. That's a long time in Jim's case. So, you, how did you get involved in this very unusual and so much needed line of work? It's a profession. It's not work. It is a profession.
Well, it was a fluke, because this isn't what I went to school for.
Yeah,
my bachelor's degree was PE, biology, and secondary education, so I'm your coach and science teacher. Which really doesn't
happened to the way.
That was before you branched out?
That's before I branched out, and I was actually working at the high school with two extremely handicapped children in education. And then I ended up being at mental health, because mental health was involved with the two youngsters that I was educating. And I worked there for like 5 years, and then I went to Logan Mason Rehab and worked with community developmentally disabled adults. And shared a lot of those cases that I had with DCFS, so I got to know the DCFS staff. And one day I'd called over to DCFS when I was working at Logan Mason Rehab, and Rita Segelke answered the phone, and she said, I'm leaving. I'm not going to be a caseworker. I'm going to be an investigator. Call Larry back, meaning Larry Evers, who was the supervisor of the office. And Rita hung up on me.
Fine friend.
Terminated that.
So then I called back and asked for Larry, and that's how I ended up at DCFS, because back in that time frame, all you had to have was a bachelor's degree. They didn't really care what it was in. That has subsequently changed. You need social work, a bachelor's in social work or related field. In order to be a supervisor, you need a master's in social work. So that's how I ended up here 29 years ago. It wasn't the path that I was envisioning, but I wouldn't change it. People say 29 years, wow. The average rate is a 6-year burnout rate as a caseworker. I was a caseworker for 21 years.
I can believe that.
And, how are you still doing this? And what I look at is I still love what I'm doing, and I still think I make a difference. And when that changes, it's time for me to hang up my sheepskin and call it a day. You know, when you start, you're going to save the world.
Yeah.
You know,
what's the
this
difference?
idealistic, and after you're there a few years, you
20
realize
minutes?
I can't save the world, but I can save pieces.
Yeah, well, you see, that's the thing that, as I said earlier, we all go about our daily lives without giving much thought to what I call the real world out there, and there is a lot of need. We've had the Salvation Army up here to talk about what they do in the community. You know, they reach stratas that we aren't even aware of. And it's so important. And we think of the youngsters and what they face in the future without the kind of help that the DCFS is able to give them.
Well, and realistically, it takes a village. You know, when you're talking,
Wish you hadn't said that.
the most.
Remind me of a politician I'm not very fond of.
Oh dear.
If you look at most teachers, most of the children we deal with are going to. They're in school, whether it be early Head Start, or, you know, West Lincoln, Broadwell, Chester East, 27404. And so they have eyes on them every day. And people to watch out for them, because that is our job. You know, they're going to the health department to get immunizations. There's another set of eyes. And most people don't know this, but people who take a life of service and dealing with kids, you know, they've had all kinds of articles on the TV recently about how much teachers spend out of their own pockets to get stuff. I don't have enough sheets of paper to write down how many staff at DCFS have reached into their own pocket to get food, diapers, wipes, a tank of gas.
Because an immediate need, and you can't wait for bureaucracy to fill that need.
No.
So
Well,
they
there's
see
a lot that the bureaucracy won't cover.
Yeah.
You know, and they do it quietly. They do it quietly. They just do it because it needs to be done.
Because it's them.
You know, when you take an infant with just the diaper and undershirt they've got on, boy, they need a lot of stuff. You got to have a crib. You got to have bottles. You got to have, well, not Johnson's baby powder anymore.
No, don't use that. But you know, that's one thing I've heard so many times. Well, people are foster parents because they make money at this. Yeah. Well, I did print out for Logan County. If I place a child with you who's birth to 11 months,
a little one,
you get $384. Now, think
that's
about
the startup fee.
That's your board rate.
Okay.
For diapers, wipes,
everything.
They're on WIC, but usually formula doesn't last the whole month, so you're buying your own formula. You need a crib. You need a car seat.
Oh, gosh, yes.
So $384 a month. Now, if they're 12 years and older, you get $471. Now, I don't know if any of you have had teenagers.
Well, you know,
between
I
the
did.
food,
and you know he did. And
yeah,
you know he did.
Especially with boys, you can't feed them. You know, and they want to play on the basketball team, so you need to buy the special tennis shoes.
And there are fees involved with that.
Absolutely, you know. You can't make money at it. You can't.
Who figures these formulas? You came up with odd figures like $471.
I don't know why they are weird figures, and I don't know why it.
You know, you'd say.
And probably
I'm a social worker, not an MBA. It's a math thing.
The need ever changes. I mean, every client I presume that's what the word you would use, or patience, as the case may be. If you get somebody today, their needs are 100% opposite of what somebody's going to be a need for tomorrow.
Everybody's individual, and we try to work as a partnership, not a dictatorship.
That's important.
We've got to work together. We've got to be honest. We develop what's called a service plan, which is a way, and we want our parents to engage in that so we can correct the conditions that brought your children into care. And whether that be mental health or substance abuse or parenting or housing or financial needs, it's looking at what you need. There's not a one-size-fit-all.
Now, you mentioned one thing that I'm going to ask this question directly. Is substance abuse a major factor or an ancillary factor in your caseloads?
What I find a lot of times is there's an underlying mental health problem, and so you're self-medicating.
That's a part of substance. That's a part of.
So you're self-medicating with whatever it is, and then you're also dealing with the addiction. So it's tough to get services because do I need to deal with the substance abuse first, or do I need to deal with the schizophrenia first?
The chicken and the egg.
It is, and it's.
And this can have a long-lasting effect on youngsters. I know of a family, took a family of 3 as foster children, and they ultimately adopted them. Hasn't worked out very well as far as the boys are concerned. The boys are in a substance abuse situation now, it's kind of like the tentacles of that fish running around down in the sea. The tentacles reach out in many, many ways and touch people in different ways.
Well, a lot of it's genetic. When you're talking about a substance abuse issue,
both the parents on this situation, the parents of these 3, were both abusers, and that's what they knew as infants.
That's all they've seen. Absolutely, domestic violence is horrible, and the trauma that it impacts children of all ages.
Is that rampant, or is it more occasional? I can't get a handle on the abuse of children. I just can't imagine how that happens.
Well, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with the children. If the parents are fighting, and unfortunately, typically the father figure is the abuser, and it starts with beating her down. You're fat, you're ugly, you're lazy, you're stupid, and you hear that long enough, and pretty soon I am fat and ugly and lazy and stupid, and I can't break away from this because I need you.
But doesn't the cure for that have to happen way before the problem occurs? Don't you, as a mother, have to teach your kids from the time they're little that they matter?
But if you are so wrapped up in your own mental illness, substance abuse, being a victim of domestic violence, it's pretty hard to extricate yourself from that to properly parent your kids.
And sometimes it self-fulfills itself. The parents, one or both, grew up in that kind of environment.
Absolutely.
So it becomes natural for them as they become, well, most of them don't get married as such, but as they become partners or whatever, and they raise these kids, and they're raising those kids in the same environment in which they grew up.
But
it's a self-fulfilling thing.
But that's how we learn. We've laughed about, there's so many times when my kids were little, I'd think, oh, I sound just like my mother. Because that's how I learned to cook. Not very well. Clean the house.
Not very well.
Raise the children. That's how you learn it is in your home of origin. And if your home of origin was dysfunctional, that's what you know. You know the dysfunction of it all.
That's why those of us who grew up in functional families, orderly, normal families, should forever thank our Maker, because we got that assignment as
there,
opposed
but for
to
the grace
others.
of God
You
go
just
I.
did that,
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, and our kids see so much trauma, and things have changed. I wouldn't want to be raising kids now. And I know I've heard both of you say that. Everything has changed so much. You know, when we were kids, there wasn't computers, there wasn't cell phones. You put a note in front of the microwave, it says, I'm down at the Alberts playing basketball. You know? It doesn't work that way anymore. And I can call you and tell you I'm at the Alberts from my cell phone, but
You might not
you
be
don't
anywhere
know.
near there. Yeah.
You have no idea where I am.
Yeah.
And I understand you can put trackers and all that if you're tech savvy, which a lot of us aren't. Yes, me too.
Are you not too good?
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, I thought you were good.
Yeah, no. No, not at all. Not at all.
648-5510. Just have a few minutes left. I guess Judy's daughter, Cince, has taken some busy time to come up here and discuss her profession. Which, as I say, almost ad nausea, that not all of us could do, because it takes a special person to work with the disadvantaged. And certainly, in many cases, most of your children that you see, and young adults, because you do see teenagers, they are sure as heck disadvantaged.
They are, and, you know, I don't want it to sound like because of the trauma that the children we deal with, there's no hope. I always tell my kids when I get so frustrated with the kids that I work with, that, you know, you didn't have it good as a kid. And you really got two choices, and these are dealing with older teens. You can wallow in it and the self-pity of, it was horrible and all these things happened to me, or you can rise above it. And I have lots of successful kids that I don't want to repeat this. I have kids that I had when I first started this job that still call me, that stop by to say, hey, I graduated college, I got married, I have a baby. And because you become part of their life, you become their aunt, their grandma, their parent. I mean, I still think back to a child that I had, and she had struggled so hard. She was in 5th or 6th grade at school, and she called me one day and I got student of the week. And of course I reveled with her.
Sure.
And when I hung up the phone, I thought, that's so sad. You called your DCFS caseworker to share something that you worked so hard for. But to be able to take the time and say, man, that's awesome. And I still see her, you know, and I still get big hugs, and she's in her 30s now. You know?
That's a reward, as opposed to, because Lord knows you're not high on the pay scale. That's a reward for which you can't put a number.
You can't, and you know, with this job, there's lots of reveling and excitement and hugs. There's also a lot of tears. Bad things happen to kids.
Well, it's a very altruistic thing. You can't put a hug in your bank balance, but it sure does go a long ways to help make your day.
Well, we've all heard it before. A lot of times it's not what you did or what you said, but how you made somebody feel that they'll remember.
Amen.
Well said to that. Since got a couple minutes here, anything you'd like to say to kind of wrap up your thoughts here as we go into this? We're almost here at the Christmas season. And as you know, again, we don't want to talk about charity just in the context of the season of giving, which is Christmas. These charities have an ongoing need, 365 days a year.
There is, and again, everybody remembers from Thanksgiving to January, and they're very good about the kettles. We just had the Elks and the Emblem Club deliver 114 baskets to the needy.
That's a lot.
We've got the shopping that's been going on for Head Start, but we got to expand this. This is a 12-month problem. This isn't a problem that's from Thanksgiving to the 26th of December. This is 12 months that we have families that are struggling. We have children who are hungry. We have those who just need a smile and a pat on the back. And just to be mindful of your community. And if you're able to step up to the plate and make a difference. That's what life is about, not Christmas, but life.
Mrs. Busby, you did a good job raising a child here.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she certainly did.
She's her own person.
Well, we're very proud of her. We appreciate, Cince, you taking your time. We always try to come up with a quote or something. And, I thought about this, and I finally had to do a little search around. I don't just produce these quotes out of the back of what I have that's gray matter. Not much of it up there now anymore. So thanks to the Google. I found this quote that has something to do about working with children. And as I do that, on behalf of Judith Kay and Jim Ash and our guest this morning, and Cynthia Lynn Bowns, we all wish you a Merry Christmas. Have a nice season. There can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than in the way in which it treats its children. Thank you, Cince, for being with us.
Merry Christmas.